guys. So in the last episode we actually show you some of the what Rashi chart actually can do, and some of the different characteristics of a Rashi chart, how you actually see what each individual house can signify, and how we actually use it and apply it to questions that our clients usually have about let's say spouses, or time that they get married, and ability to get children, of when we'll have their first child and things like that. And we can actually talk about more about our career as well, so whether our career we are in the right line, in the right field. So today, right, in this video I'm going to tell you about more about this Rashi chart and the astrology. So okay, because astrology actually depends on astronomy, which is the certain astronomical concepts that must be we must first understand before we actually go into Rashi chart reading. And there is just these three steps in Jyotish. This is the most common, and we usually do calculation, then we look at the representation, and then we interpret this chart. So the first step in actually most astrology is actually to calculate this map of these heavens, as we have seen in the previous video, or this, we can look at this chart here. So this is actually a map of all the planets at the point of your time of birth. That's why in Vedic astrology we actually need your birthday and your birth time to be able to give you an accurate indication or interpretation, because just 2 hours after 2 hours difference in your birth time, or even 30 minutes, it can go on to the next kind of mapping, which some of the faster movement planets, they will actually change in their houses. That means it could be let me just get the pen. Okay, so it can be like, let's say in the next hour or so, Venus could be moving on to another different house, and then that would actually mean your reading or your understanding of this chart and interpreting the destiny is going to be different. So this is something that we need to have just to be more accurate. Okay, so let me just remove this one. Okay, so to be able to tell this time and place of that event, we have to be accurate right from the start. So because this is like your birth chart, this is the case of a birth, then we actually look at that exact precise map, the timing for this to be able to make an correct and accurate interpretation. So although we let's talk about a bit about the zodiac. So although objectively actually the earth actually move around the sun in an elliptical orbit, so we on earth actually we see the sun appearing to move around the earth. So this path of motions that we seem to see the sun appearing to move around the earth, that is a term for this. It's called ecliptic movement or ecliptic motion. So this movement, right, is used in Jyotish. Okay, in Jyotish we look at the ecliptic movement, and this actually confined to a band of heavens which extends a band of heavens, that means at a certain degree in, like, let's say this curve degree, this is a sky, as a map of the sky. So in this degree we are looking at approximately about 8 degrees to both the north and the south of the ecliptic, as we've seen here on the earth. So this in this zodiac, we actually, to identify the zodiac, we actually look at this chart here, and we divide it into 360 degrees. Okay, we 360 degrees in, that means we look at this like it's a circle, and then we will cut it right like this. So this entire thing is a 360 degree. Each degree is divided into 60 minutes of arc. So what this means is actually we have, sometimes we always see when we look at the longitudinal latitude, we see a degree and then we see this thing. So this is actually the minutes, and this is the degrees. Okay, when we see the sign here. Okay, so there we have 360 degrees, and then we have each degree is one each degree is then divided into 60 minutes, so that is 60 minutes in this. So sometimes when we see things like that, 11 degree 21 minutes, yeah, so there's this 21 minutes, so there's 21 times 60, there's this degrees in 11 degrees and then 21 minutes. So each minute of an arc is divided into further divided into 60 seconds, 60 seconds of the arc. Okay, so this is one of the fundamentals that we need to understand, because when we do reading, when we chase accuracy, or we want to see how strong a certain planet, for example, is, we look at how close it is to a cusp, and we are talking about accuracy like 1 degree, within 1 degree, or we want to see, we are going to identify planetary wall. That means there is like, let's say for example, planets that are very close together, and then it's like within 2 degrees. Like for this example, right, we can actually see the sun and the moon is very close to each other, so this is actually less than 1 degree, or about 1 degree difference. So we can see that there's this term that we call is planetary wall, so that will actually affect the strength of this planet. So it may seem that the moon is a very good thing over here, but being so close to the sun, the moon is obviously being covered. So like, let's say for example, if you look at this time of the day, this is around 3 p.m. or so in the afternoon, and the sun is very much very strong, in although it's waning, but it's very bright in the sky, and the moon being beside it and almost 1 degree, we actually cannot see the moon in the sky right now at this timing at 3 p.m. when we should be seeing the moon, because it's right there in our chart. But because this is so close to the sun, the moon is as if it's non-existent. So what we actually can see from this Rashi chart is that our life, right, when we are born here, we set our ascendant degree, and this is the eastern horizon. So when we are born here, we look at the snapshot of the sky, and all these planets that we are talking about, you know, Saturn, Venus, Mars, Rahu, and Ketu, all these planets, right, they are able to tell us certain things because of the strength of themselves. And so where they are placed in the sky at the point of time of birth is how we see how strong it is. And how we see how strong it is by the brightness of all these stars, all these planets. So we can tell that the sun is the brightest planet in the zodiac, because it actually gives out a lot of energy, and the moon actually depends on the sun for its light. So the sun being the brightest is actually the most important. That's why we associate our sole purpose with the sun, and they call it Atma Karaka. So this is where we actually determine what we actually want in our life, just by looking at the sun, and what will actually meet our purpose, what is our life purpose. Like people always get lost in this, and they want to know, and this is where this path of this life, the lessons that we are supposed to learn in this life, is going to take. And people are unaware of this, and then they just go around you know, crashing into walls, and you bang this wall, bang that wall, and then finally they get to where they want, or what they are actually here for in this lifetime. So in Vedic, we are able to tell you straight away what is this life purpose that you are trying to fulfill, and this could actually save you a lot of time, a lot of trials, a lot of obstacles, a lot of painful experiences, and then you can actually spend more time to learn about all this life purpose. It may not be as blissful or as smooth sailing as you expect it to be, but knowing this, you are able to embrace, you're able to endure more, and you actually are able to focus on the lessons you need to grasp in this lifetime. So this is what the purpose of Zodiac is actually helping us to see in this Vedic chart. So there is in Jyotish, we actually further divide this into equal segments. These segments down here, let me just change the color of the pen. Yeah, so all these segments here is in equal segment is in 30 degrees. Okay, so we have each one is 30 degrees because there are 12 zodiac signs. Okay, so each zodiac, each division of this sidereal zodiac are actually known as constellations. So because this, we need to be aware of this, because in Western astrology, those zodiacs that we understand, the Aries, the Taurus, Gemini, are different from the Jyotish astrology. So when we talk about Aries, there is certain difference in difference is characteristics that we actually use to apply in Jyotish here. So the better word to identify this zodiac is actually our signs or our constellation. So it's better to be known as no need to be a constellation. So so there is more technical things about the difference between tropical zodiac and sidereal zodiac, because in tropical zodiac we are actually talking more about the western side, and then the sidereal one is what Jyotish is actually applied to, but that is for your own reading. If you are interested to know more about the technical stuff, the things about like the sidereal and the tropical, they actually move apart at 1 degree every 72 years, and then there is a point in time where these two sidereal and tropical zodiac actually meets. So that is the point where Jyotish actually starts to monitor this difference in the degree. So all these degrees that we actually see here, all these are actually taken or matched to that point where it starts. That means at the point X where sidereal and tropical actually meets, Jyotish starts to take into account. So but there is a lot of because it happened so many years ago, like about 5,300 years ago, that a lot of information are lost. So there are a few astrologers that is debating which years that they should actually use to do this. So there is a number that is here. This number always changes, like I mentioned in the previous video. So we actually see number 2 here, and then okay, sorry, this one I draw it too much over it. This is actually number 1, and this number 2, this number 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's all in this counterclockwise order. So all of these numbers, right, actually represents our zodiac. So okay, if you are not new to Western astrology, we know number 1 is always Aries. So that is our ram, that is our competitor, our like the gladiator that will not die and never give up. So that's the one that always wants to compete and likes competition. So that is our Aries. That is number 1. So if you know, after Aries is always Taurus. Taurus, that will be it's like you're born in 22nd of April onwards. So that is our Western astrology. But in Vedic, actually the timing is actually different. The date of changes from zodiac to zodiac is actually different. So that one later probably I will touch on it. So first is Aries, and then we go to Taurus, and then we have our number 3 is Gemini here. Gemini, and then we have our Cancer, we have our Leo, which is the lord of the sun is the lord of Leo, and Virgo. So probably later I will just share a bit about how the I think I shared this in the previous video, that about how the planets actually get their zodiac signs, they get their constellations. Actually the sun and the moon is the king and the queen, and then they actually get to they have or they own all these constellations. Then our friend Mercury came in, and then they start taking a few of it from them because they are so nice. They give out all these constellations. So all these constellations down here that you see, like you see Aries, and then we have Taurus, Gemini, all these are owned by certain planets. So those certain planets, what we actually identify them is that we call them the lordship, or we call them the lords of this zodiac signs. So that will actually give you another layer of reading already. So like let's say Gemini's lord is a Mercury. Yeah. So and then later part we'll talk about the friends of planets, the friends, the neutral and the enemies of this planet. So that's one of the one of the thing that we actually can use this lordship for. And then what else? So yeah, so 1 2 3, all these numbers, right, actually changes in every chart, so it may not be the same for every one of us, but do remember the houses will not change. So like I mentioned in the previous video, this one is your first house, this won't change first, and then you have your second here, third, fourth, and then so on. Okay, so these houses won't change, these are always permanent. So of course later I'll touch on the house significators. That means the house is also represented by certain planets, and then we just look at how the planets actually interact with each other, how they actually aspect each other, the lordship of these houses, whether they are at home or they feel at home or they feel uneasy, and that can change certain or influence certain outcome that we actually read from the Rashi chart. And then when we go down to deeper level, when we look at the nakshatras level, that is our 12 zodiac signs is divided even more, so to a certain degree, and then every degree is there's 27 of them. Every nakshatra of this degrees is represented by another different lot, so that actually tells us a lot more information about more detailed information about certain event or certain questions or answers that you actually want to seek from the Jyotish chart here. Okay, so and there is this so just for extra information, there is this term called Ayanamsha. So Ayanamsha, once every 2,500 25,800 years or so, the starting point of this sidereal and the tropical zodiacs actually coincide. So this is what I mentioned earlier, right, about the starting point actually comes together. So and subsequently, remember I said every 72 years it actually moves 1 degrees of arc. Okay, so this is some of this extra information that actually I just let you know. And then another information that actually I need to prepare you with, so that actually this actually forms the basis of this learning, because all these are basic especially if you are new to astrology. There is this term called diurnal, the diurnal, diurnal motion. This motion actually describes a complete cycle once daily, with 1 complete rotation of the Earth on the Earth's axis. So it's not related to other planets, it's just the Earth axis, 1 complete cycle, which is once daily. And this motion actually tells us how much the other planets actually move. So this is just for your information. The sun actually moves 1 degree per day, and in 1 degree per day, remember, is each constellation is like down here, right? Each constellation is 30 degrees. So the sun actually moves 1 degree every day. So this one small part of the pizza, one small part of the pie. Okay, so in 30 days it actually moves 1 whole constellation. That is for the sun. Okay, then it will move on to the next constellation. So if this sun here is, you see, is 28 degrees, right? So this sun is 28 degrees, that means it's almost ending, it almost ends his stay in this house, which is the 9th house. So this sun is going to go over to the 10th house soon. So it's in about two days, which is 1 degree per day. So that is how much the sun moves. So this is the diurnal motion that I'm talking about. So in for the moon, it's about 13 degrees and 58 minutes per day, or about 2.25 days per constellation. So that actually the moon, what we can tell the difference is that in about 2.25 days, it actually moves 1 whole constellation, whereas the sun actually moves in 30 days, right? So that means the moon actually moves a lot faster. So every 2.25 days, the moon is in the next constellation already. So actually it moves. Okay, 2.25 days, it moves again. and 2.25, move again. Whereas the sun takes about 30 days to move here, and then that's about 1 month. So next month then you'll move here, okay, so on and so forth. So that is what it means. And then I think this is quite simple to absorb. So just for information, the Mars move about 38 minutes per day, so that's 1.5 months before it moves to another area down here. Okay, it moves to another area. Mercury is about 30 days per constellation, and then we have Jupiter is about 1 year per constellation. So when Jupiter actually transits any of your houses, it's going to stay there for about 1 year. Venus is about 30 days per constellation, so that is about the same speed as the Sun. And then we have Saturn, which is 4 minutes per day. That's 2.5 years per constellation. So you can see the Saturn is actually moving very slowly, because what we understand in Vedic is that the placement of this Saturn planet is the furthest, is the slowest, and usually the furthest is the coldest and the darkest. So remember all these keywords that I actually just mentioned about dark, cold, and slow. These are very vital in our understanding of let's say Saturn in any of these houses. So in this chart here, we can actually, let me just change the color of this pen again. So if you notice, Saturn is here, and this is our 7th house, right? So Saturn is down here. Remember, cold, dark, and lonely, and slow. So that what actually means to this person's chart here is that, remember 7th house in the previous video, I actually talked about this as our spouse palace, our spouse house. So in the 7th house, our Saturn is sitting here. That means that it could mean a few things. It could mean that you could meet someone, but before this, but if you actually get married before 32 onwards, 36 onwards, this kind of period, there is going to be a few divorces. So the real marriage, the real true love is actually appearing in your life a bit later. So the advice to this person is that just go around and try to date more, but not get too serious because the real marriage is going to appear much later in life, because Saturn is slow, and it's furthest away. So Saturn is about is wise, but it's like a wise old man. So it's very careful. It's very scared stiff of any sudden changes, that kind of thing. So in Saturn, if Saturn is sitting down here, it can mean a lot of things. It can mean that the spouse can be someone of an older, wiser kind of person. Either that, or you could marry late. And if you marry late, usually the spouse will be someone that is much younger. So this is what Saturn is actually implying down here, especially in the 7th house. So one thing that we need to talk, because later on we'll share more about each individual planet and its characteristics. But if Saturn is sitting down here, Saturn doesn't actually deny you of this thing. So if someone with this chart that actually comes along and asks me, I have been having a lot of relationships and all these turns out to be nothing, and then there's not one that actually turns to fruition. I put in a lot of effort and I'm tired, and I just want to know when I will actually find the right one, and then I will actually get married so that I can build my own home. So if such a client actually comes along, then we actually can see that Saturn being down here is not necessarily a bad thing, because Saturn means you are getting on experiences. So the advice will be carry on doing or carry on dating people, and as you date more people, you actually gain the experience to know or to realize what you actually want from a partner. And then from then, you'll be very clear that one day when it's time, which is 32 onwards, when someone appear, you actually will right away you know that this person is actually the one for you. And then this marriage will happen. Okay, Saturn doesn't deny deny it, doesn't deny it. So Saturn sitting down here, it means this person will eventually get married. Do or die will get married. So there is, and this marriage will last because Saturn means stability. It means although there may be some challenges prior to that, it doesn't deny a spouse. So being Saturn being down here, and this person is worried, if this person is actually worried about not able to find a spouse, then it's actually very good news that Saturn is sitting down here. Although Saturn actually throws this person a lot of challenges, a lot of failed relationships, probably a few divorces here and there, but it will actually give you a good marriage after that if you can understand from this failed all these failures that happened before, then it will you actually learn a lot of crucial things about marriage. Maybe it's something to do with yourself and how you actually not interfere, or how you actually influence with your spouse, or the things that you have said probably are too harsh, or things like that, and then you learn how to control your speech and things like that. So that is what actually Saturn is telling about. So if this person is concerned about whether it's actually able to get married, then I'm actually very happy for this person because Saturn is sitting right here. So this is actually what we can actually tell from the planets, the planet's position, which I will go more in depth later on in the next I don't know how many videos. But for this part, right, when we are talking about motion, we are talking more about our transits, our motion of our other planets, so how fast they actually move. So Saturn is about 2.5 years in this constellation. So if we want to tell someone when this person, or we want to tell this client, this particular client, we will look at the Dasha Bhukti of or this time period where Saturn is strong or is highlighted, and this is the period that we actually tell this person to get ready or to look out for the potential partner, because very high chance the energy is helping him or her with this union, this potential union. And Saturn will usually won't make it difficult for you to find what is required. So if let's say you are jobless for a while, and this is where Saturn is actually sitting, it actually tells us that this joblessness is actually helping you find out more about what you actually like to do. And then when Saturn, the period comes in, it will definitely give you a job. So let's say next year you have been jobless for maybe 1 year or so, and then next year is your Saturn coming in. So this is the time to be prepared and to think about what you are actually going to do or what you like to do, because Saturn will always promise you a job, because Saturn wants to teach you certain things. It has, and Saturn is like, let's say, sitting in the 10th house, which is the career. It will always give you a career so that it can test you out. So our Saturn is like our discipline mistress or discipline master in our school that last time, where they're always watching you. They are always looking out whether your socks is too long, that kind of thing, and then they'll punish you if you do wrong. But if you have your hair trimmed and proper, and you don't actually defy or create trouble for this discipline master, then your life is actually going to be very good. You could be not that I agree, but you could be a prefect or a monitor, that kind of thing. So you'll be given responsibility to perform, to excel. Because once you are given the prefect title, for example, in this just an illustration, people will actually notice you. If you are just wearing the tie and then you are the prefect, or you are the one talking in the morning assembly, people will actually notice you. You will be more famous, and you'll be more in the limelight. So this is actually an example of how Saturn actually can help you. And if during this period, Saturn will be testing you, see whether you can follow the rules, whether you have been doing the right things, and then if so, they will reward you. So if Saturn is aspecting your career and you're jobless, then it won't be long before you'll be given the chance to be tested. So there is nothing to worry if this is the case. So this motion we are talking about, Saturn is moving every 2.5 years. So during those time period where Saturn actually comes in or transits these places or come into your dasha or your mahadasha, then there is these other periods where you won't be jobless. You if you're looking for a spouse and then Saturn is here, you won't be alone, you won't be lonely, but there is still some sort of effort that you need to put in. Okay, so this motion thing, okay, oh yeah, lastly we have our Ketu and Rahu. So in another video I'll be sharing there is this folklore, this myth about Rahu and Ketu, which actually helps us in our learning. And Rahu and Ketu actually move one constellation in about 1.5 years. 1.5 years before it moves on to the next one. So this is the diurnal motion. So this is one of the few things that we need to be aware of, because these are actually some of the basics that we actually need before we can go into reading this Vedic chart here. Yeah, so probably in the next video I will be talking about maybe more in the houses. Yeah, probably I will start with the houses. So if you enjoy this video and this kind of teaching or sharing, and if you are interested in Vedic, you can email me, or we can discuss about some of this knowledge, and then we can share and learn together. So this is what this series is all about. It's about sharing of this great knowledge. It's not difficult to absorb, but there is still some basic that we need to understand before we go out and read for our friends and family. So if you enjoy this series, please like and subscribe, and you can share this with your friend. It's going to be free, and I hope to see you in the next video.